All right, so I think we will start. I think that's good. Yeah, welcome everybody to today's talk of Niteesh, Yadav, and not everybody knows that, but Niteesh and I, we did study together at Reading, so we know each other, and I'm really excited because I've been listening to your talks, and you are really, it's going really well for you, and I'm very, very happy and excited to follow all your work. Yeah. So for those who don't know, who are not friends with Niteesh, but easy peasy, he will fix it for you. So Niteesh is a type designer and a digital product designer, and he's researching about improving typography and standard for the interfaces for RE headsets. So his interest in typography and research led him to do his master in the University of Reading in type design. And he started his research about typefaces for AR headsets and designed a type family called RO. I think you pronounce it like that, yeah. That includes Devanagari typefaces and to optimize reading experience across platforms and headsets. So, and then he graduated and he continued his research independently, which I think is super cool, to explore different headsets and challenges beyond design of typefaces. So now he's exploring different ways how to implement text with capabilities equivalent to modern tools used for designing user interfaces. And yeah, and I would like to hand over to Niteesh, and he can tell me a little bit on, you know, where you're located now, because everybody is everywhere, and tell us your story. And before I let you start, Niteesh, I just want to say to everybody who's here and listening that they can pop in questions for Niteesh to answer later in the question marks in the chat. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Awesome, thanks, Carolina. That was a really great introduction. I think you have covered everything. So basically, like in this case, I have been working, as you have mentioned, that I have been working on this like even before starting for university, because this has been like because of my interest in emerging tech, which is like anything new which is coming in. And then AR was like basically how I got interested in that was during when Google Glass was launched. And then later on, I thought like maybe this is a new space which is emerging, and then we would need like a better typography, because now we are not just thinking about 2D planes of like a 2D way of thinking and reading text. Now we are moving to a 3D world, which is like text in a spatial aspect. And then so that was one of the challenges which I found very interesting. And that's how I started like working on this. And then that's how like I got into Reading, and then I explored this bit. And then beyond that, I've been like working on basically, I work on both aspects. So I work on typefaces, and I am also like trying to explore ways in terms of technology, which I would explain that like we are in very primitive stage if we talk about application of typefaces in AR. So I think you can watch this video, and then we can start the talk. And then after that, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask anything.
Hello, and welcome to ATypI Tech Talks. I'm Niteesh, a type and product designer who's researching on typography for AR headsets. And today I'm going to share with you the emerging variables in typography for augmented reality. So let's get started. So after decades of use, we have become accustomed to using screens at a distance, and this includes desktop, laptop, mobile and tablets on which we spend a lot of our time. But now that is at the verge of changing. The distance of screen from our eyes is set to change from about a foot to a fraction of an inch. So basically that's a major change which is happening right now. So in this case, like the immersive AR headsets are going to change how we consume information, which will lead to higher immersion. And then since the field of view is changing from about 40 degrees to more immersive 200 degrees. And if you want to understand that, I'll give you a simple demo. So just imagine like cutting a small window through a piece of paper, and then when you see the world using this hole and this window around you, then you see a small amount of world which is available if it is at a distance. And then as you move closer, as you move this closer to your eyes, what you see is the world, the area that you can see through becomes much more larger and larger. So basically this is your field of view which is changing as these kind of new immersive displays are coming in, and then these become very close to your eyes. So basically now moving on to understanding the devices, even though I mentioned that the screens are about 1 inch from your eyes, but the placement of virtual objects is still further. So in this case, like the screen is here, but again the virtual objects that you are going to see in the world are going to be further away. And then these objects are overlaid in the user's surrounding. Basically, this is in this process we basically deceive our minds to think that the objects are far away, even though they are being projected right close to your eyes. So now that you have an idea about immersion, let's understand how these devices around us, which have been there for a longer time, are evolving. So basically now our dumb sunglasses, they will become smart, in which we can add contextual information, and then that can help us in leading a much more easier life where all the information is available right in front of you at any given point of time. And then this shift is also happening in desktops, where the changes are going from desktop to AR and mixed reality headsets, which means we may no longer need these bulky desktops around us for a longer period of time. And then like another change which has already happened, and then which is quite in a booming stage right now, is the VR headsets. So those have already made their mark in the gaming industry, and then they are selling, like, basically I can give you a stat. So Oculus Quest 2, which is a virtual reality headset, has reportedly sold more than like million units in a single quarter, which is a huge mark. So now that we are here, so just let's understand and then focus more towards augmented reality. So a lot of people have been skeptical about AR since they don't see a lot of these devices around them. So let's look at the trend that investors look at when they are investing in emerging tech. And then for that they refer to basically the Gartner cycle, which is the go-to place for these people. And then in 2017 what they showed was that augmented reality was under decline. But now, as we fast forward to like basically looking at the stat which came out in 2020, it was no longer available in these trends. So so if now you want to know why, so basically they consider this piece of tech, which is augmented reality, to have matured from a evolving tech to a mature tech which is now being used across different industries. So and then with this, now AR has billions of dollars of investment and multi-billion-dollar deals in terms of like enterprise usage. So yeah, this tech is now part of enterprise workflow, and then it is saving millions of dollars for big companies where it is being used currently. And as we move further, this will gradually trickle down to consumer market, which is like people like us, the consumer, more towards not factory floors, but real world people using these kind of tech. So in this case, I just want to propose, why not get an early bite of share in this market? So that is what we are going to discuss now. So now that I've explained basically the growth in AR, let's talk about text in AR, for which we are here. So yeah, moving forward. So in like looking at the screens in past decades, what has been happening is that there are some key aspects that contribute to comfort and immersion in AR, and among those factors I have like shown in this diagram, you can see the ones. So these are multiple factors which come into play when we are talking about comfort and immersion in AR headset. But for us, like as type designers, so basically I've marked the ones which really affect us, and then which will affect the workflow that that we are going to use when we are designing for these kind of headsets. So to be honest, like, I won't get into the details of these because I have already discussed these aspects during last ATypI 2020 talk, which you can just scan this QR code and see there, where, yeah, and I think we'll move further and then getting let's understand the different aspects of text which will help you understand the behavior of text in augmented reality headsets. So the first thing that comes into my mind is understanding the anchoring of text. So where really this text is in these in the view and in a particular experience that user is going to be immersing in. So it can be game, or it can be a navigation application, or any other application like that. So first up is the world space, in which the objects are placed in the real world, and then they stick to a particular location in the real world. So basically, now just imagine like placing a marker on a particular location, and then providing the information for that, and then seeing that through AR glasses. Second comes in the headspace, in which objects are placed in front of the user and follows the head movement. So basically, if the object is right in front of me, and then if I'm moving, then this virtual object will follow my head movement. So that's the second. And then there is another thing which is the eye space, which is usually the elements which stick to the gaze. And then when I see the gaze, in this case, my head will not move. So basically, just imagine there is a notification, and then if I am moving my eyes around, then and not moving my head, this kind of moves with my gaze. And then this is the most obtrusive kind of element which is there in AR experiences. But again, and this is supposed to be used minimally and then provide very crucial information. Further, there is this object space where the information sticks to real objects. So basically, in this case, I can and then if I give you an example. So basically, if there is a machine part you are holding, and then there is a notation on it where it shows a name of the part and then particular thing where you have to screw instructions to screw. So in this case, what will happen is that information always sticks to this object which is in my hand, and then it changes direction. Now let's move to placement of text. I created this classification to understand the placement of text in these headsets. So the first thing is our HUD region, which is heads up display region, where the text is positioned directly in front of the user instead of being at an angle. So it's directly going to be in front. And then the second one is the UI region, where most of the interaction happens, where the user can manipulate objects and elements. So this is going to be the most interactive and most used part of the whole experience, where user can just scale things. Users can pick things and then play around with different things. And then the third the region which comes into play is the environment region, which mostly contains annotations and overlays of info over the real world objects. And then in this case, I can give an example, which is signages and all these kind of things. So I'll explain this in further details in the coming slides. So further moving on, so now another thing which comes into play, which I have been repeating multiple times, is the viewing angle. So it can be fixed. So in that case, as I had already mentioned, HUD region requires info to be fixed directly in front of the user. Other scenario is where the text changes angle, so or it is at an angle. So it can be two cases, where it's already present in in particular orientation, versus it changing orientation as responding to the user's gaze, or different kind of aspects which are there as part of the experience. Next is the state of the text. In this case, the text can be stationary, or it can be moving, like it happens in ticker tapes, which we are used to seeing in stock market kind of stats, and so that is also there. And then another aspect which is the state of the user as well. So the user can be stationary, or the user sitting in his or her living room, or walking down on the road wearing AR glasses and then getting navigation information. So by now, I think you would have a good idea about various variables that might affect the reading experience. So let's jump into the use cases and then and see all the aspects that we have discussed in action. So the first thing which is there is the text in heads up, the heads up display text, which is in this case the text is so in this case the term is also basically a direct reference from the heads up displays in aircrafts, which has been there for like decades now. So where the information sticks to the view of the user and then stays in position even if the head moves in any direction. So basically it will follow the direction and everything. So just have a look at this video and then it will make it much more clear.
Target's located.
Roger.
Let's go.
So one key aspect here is that the text complements the view and it should not ask for too much attention, so and thereby distracting the user from the main task he's supposed to do. So in this case you can see like in the video you would have seen that there was certain text which was like right up there. So in that case it can be time, it can be the coordinates or something like that, where the user it is there to serve a purpose, but only when the user wants it, not all. So it remains there, but again it remains it sits there and then stays neutral to the attention of the user. Further, this is the biggest challenge that we have to face is text for long reading. So in this area where we are expected to match the experience with the conventional mediums, and when I say conventional medium is then I'm talking about basically desktops and books. And then here the major aspect which comes into play is that we are fighting against all the technical challenges which distort the letter shapes and hinders easy reading in these AR headsets. And majorly this scenario includes text anchored to the head, so it's directly in front of the users in most of the cases, but in some cases it can be anchored to the real world objects, thereby appearing at an angle in front of the user. So in this case I can give an example. So maybe you're walking down the road and then there is a monument which is there, which is towards your right, and then the description which appears. So if as a this is quite true for any application which is catering to the tourists, so that can be at an angle and then user might be walking and then seeing it at an angle. So that information is all so that type of long paragraph reading experience can be there, but ideally it should be right in front of the user. So basically I think I would you can have a look at this video and then
side, we use HoloLens 2 to enable the workers to achieve complex tasks or tasks that require an intense reading of documentation, while finally they're hands-free and they can access complex.
So in this case, we are dealing with text at a distance as compared to reading on books screen. So we are utilizing the principles of distance reading and signage. And signage can be a good approach, how we design for signages can be a good approach to designing text for longer reading in AR headset as well. And here it is strictly necessary that the text and the user are stationary, otherwise it will end up being a nauseating experience, which is not good for the user's health and then eyes as well. Further, another thing which comes into play is that another type of text is sticky info text. This type of text will become quite common as we move ahead in AR, since it is all about augmenting real world objects. Hence, annotating objects like daily stuff we can interact and basically industrial prototypes are a big use case. I think I mentioned this earlier as well. So let's look at the video and then understand what it really means to have sticky info sticking to a particular object. The part of objects can be annotated so that they can retain their position, and reading at an angle would be quite necessary in this case. If the typeface accommodates for this, then the need for the user to move the objects every time he wants to read that particular information which is at an angle becomes it reduces it. And then another major challenge which comes into this kind of scenario is having a lot of busy backgrounds, because you don't know where you would be like picking up this object and then looking at the information annotated on it in the real world. Next is the signage text, and then we have been designing for this use case for ages now, to be honest. And drawing here, we can draw inspiration from signage and motorway typefaces, and it can be a great way to like basically understanding what are the user needs and then how to go about and design certain issues which appear in this particular scenario. So just have a look at this video. Here, letter recognition at a glance and perspective distortion becomes priority that we have to solve for. But unlike in this case, unlike conventional signages, the elements here, like the text can be interactive and anchored to the real world objects. So further, I think we can move to responsive text, which is so at this point it might seem to have limited usage, but as we progress, chances of it being frequently used is very high. So especially when navigating in the real world. So just check this video and to understand it. Here as well, glance recognition becomes priority as the user is not stationary or might be moving at higher speeds. And then imagine, so in this case, just imagine you are using Google Map in the headsets, and then think of the time when you missed the turn because you couldn't check the map on time. So you're moving fast, the information has to appear at the precise moment, and then the user has to see it as soon as possible or in a very short span of time. So for it to be much more like beneficial and then for it to serve its purpose. Further, I think coming to another type of thing which is there is the ticker text. As usual, I really met people who like reading text and tickers or these like moving pieces of text. But this is one application which just works as we are used to seeing it by now. But be it in news stickers, in shop signages, things like that, we see these everywhere. And there is a good reason, to be honest, which is that it fits a lot of information in a limited space, and no wonder that it will be quite common as we see, and we'll see it in AR, because the viewing area, the field of view is quite limited at the moment, and then it is growing. But still, if we are working with limited kind of space, then having ticker text makes much more sense, since we would squeeze in more and more information in it. So just have a look at the video.
Ay no, cállate.
So here the challenging part is the reduced glance time, because both the user and the the text might be moving at the same time. So so what happens is that the speed at which we have to read has to be like 2x faster, or because considering like both the movement from the user and the text as well. Now the question comes, how do you solve for these challenges? The first thing that comes to our mind is having multiple typefaces or styles to cater to different scenarios that we discussed just now. But that is not the optimum solution or the way to go about it, because rendering multiple fonts in the system means high processing power to just display typefaces, which is, to be honest, a least of the priority for developers compared to other tasks and things happening in the headset. So now the next question which is there is, why not use variable fonts? So well, I think, let me break it to you. We are living in the primitive world of bitmap style application of fonts in these kind of AR headsets, and then even the OpenType features can't be implemented properly in AR. So in short-term use, it is better to stick to least number of fonts that can serve multiple use cases. And then in long term, I will get there, that we will be much more advanced, and then we'll talk about it in a bit in coming slides. So if you want to learn about rendering of text in AR, then do check my research section of on my website, which will give you more context on these specific challenges on rendering and then how text is implemented in AR. So the question comes, why tackle the problem right now? Now most of the organizations have realized the extra cost of building design system at a later stage. So hence a lot of these design systems are already in creation that will be a backbone of future use in these kind of different headsets and applications. So, and in these design systems, typography is a very fundamental block, and most of these systems build on top of typography and these basic elements which are there. So just to understand, if we see the market, there are very few options available, type options available that can withstand the beating of AR technology and the shortcomings in AR tech. There are no typefaces which can scale better across platforms and devices, which again in a future application and scope point of view becomes quite important for a larger organization. So this opens up a huge space or huge opportunity for us as type designers to address the needs and give the system designers, people who are designing for these headsets, more and more typeface options to choose from and create delightful experiences. So again, here are some typefaces which are being used in major platforms and then which are adopted for current or upcoming headsets. And out of these, only Domino type family was designed keeping in mind AR as a medium, but that too was that too had limited testing on the real headset itself. So now I come to this point where we have a chance to redefine typography and type design. So talking about the long-term application of typefaces now, yes, variable fonts will be a great asset for us. Because of their flexibility, and but we are at a stage where it is much more better because the whole implementation can be built from scratch, and we can find ways to solve most of the issues that we felt helpless about in past during 2 decades. So and then now talking about few aspects, so we a lot of us are quite furious about how non-Latin scripts are implemented and how they are treated in different kind of type system, how we use fonts and how we also use fonts in different kind of mediums, and anything and everything can be changed at this stage. So I think there is a need for an open dialogue to discuss and pitch ideas that can help us in terms of understanding this, and then we can join forces and to just make a bigger discussion and have a conversation about it to make these changes reality, and then not just sit and then crib about most of the things which have happened in past. So I think I'll close this presentation with a request. So please scan this this QR code and then join the conversation, and then that would be great for the whole type industry, I think. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you and stay safe.
So thank you so much, Niteesh. This was super interesting. I have a big shopping list now for getting this stuff. There are so many interesting aspects here. I think we don't have any questions, but I do wonder a little bit about the significance between typefaces. What do you see the typefaces between a typeface that fits into an AR context compared to another context, for instance, like your mobile?
So in this case, what now the major thing which is happening is even the point which I've been making is that now we are not talking about just flat screens which remain in front of us and then everything remains in our control, versus now we are moving to a world where typefaces have to cater to. So basically, I think the complex of the examples right now which we have is the typefaces which we use in dashboards, which is again very glance heavy. where the typeface, the information has to be interpreted in a very like least amount of time. So that is one challenge. Second is like things which happen in motorway typefaces. So these are the biggest challenges which have been there at this moment, which required huge amount of intervention in terms of like how do we make them more readable and then faster to recognize. And then another example that I could think of is something like the signages which were lit. I think Toshi wrote a really great article on this way, the implementation of these in terms of like of how light traps were introduced, what techniques were used, the way the backlit signages which were there to make them readable at a distance. So now what we are moving towards is more and more challenges where it's almost like, okay, some typefaces will work for sure. There is no question. And then that has been there for like when we were moving from books to screens. Then also like there were book typefaces which could have been used like in our desktop and then in our mobile phones and all those kind of things. But still, we had to optimize those and then come up with new versions to make them better to serve the needs, which are specific needs of these new mediums. So I think now that in AR and so basically I mostly talk about AR more versus VR because of the simple reason that VR, when designing for VR, a designer can control everything because the background is under control and then where it will appear is also under control. But in AR, you don't know where the user is sitting, where the user is going to be walking, like is he on the street, where like how much brightness is going to be there. So there are a lot of different kind of like aspects which are coming in, which compete for like attention and then which compete against these typefaces and then make it much more harder to read. And then, so now looking at these specific challenges, as I discussed in different scenarios, it becomes very important to like design for those specific cases and then even come up with typefaces that can work in like can't like cover all the cases, but few of the cases so that it becomes easier to get the information there.
Yeah, I was thinking about the background for having those glasses. Background must be the biggest challenges if you are in the sun or if it's dark or if it's, you know, all those things.
Yeah. So in dark is fine. So basically the moment you are indoors, then that also like everything is under your control. You can dim the lights, you can switch off the light, then also it works. But the moment you step out, which is going to happen, which is the ultimate use of these AR headsets where like you would be wearing glasses like these and then basically walking down the street. And then now if this, so basically if we are talking about London's weather, then it still like it is a like a low challenge thing where it would be mostly cloudy or something like that. And then versus like maybe going to a beach or something, a very brightly lit kind of space, then that becomes a problem.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be the most uses, entertainment or practical work? Because you showed us some really good example like the military and people like I would like it to have it like how to ensemble IKEA to stuff like pick up that screw and also but also I thought like maps and shopping lists and all those things are very practical things. So what do you think will be like the most biggest area in the future, like 10 years ahead?
So right now it will start with, so I think most probably Apple is going to launch its like headset by end of this year or next year. But that would be the smart glass. But and then in this case, I've shown one, which is Nreal. So in that case, that will start with like basic things. So even, so I'll tell you how the starting works. So starting, just imagine your Apple Watch functionality going to your glasses, which is very basic functionality. And then as the tech grows, as it becomes like, so there are two things. The tech is already there, like, but again, the pricing is a huge issue. So the only people who can afford this is the people who are working in enterprise sector, which I've shown you, like in industries, it has already been used in like maybe like building cars and then repair and all these kind of things, because it pays off for them in a very short amount of time versus sending people from different places traveling and then fixing something. So now the consumer like thing where it is going to be for consumers, it will take slightly more time, which can be like 5 to 6 years down the line. But it will happen where like again, the examples you have mentioned like were bang on. They were perfect. So basically, you have these glasses, and then now you get your IKEA furniture right in front of you, and then now instead of like having manual in one hand and then fixing and trying to do, or maybe like moving around, and then so basically it takes double the time. You go and see that manual, and then basically you try to do it, and then we're also like it is not that easy that people understand all the diagrams that easily. So now versus like just imagine your like all the parts of the furniture or something like that is right in front of you, where everything is marked clearly that okay, screw this thing at this point of thing, versus like annotating all the areas and then giving all that information to the user. So now I think like finally going to the entertainment is going to be much more towards the VR headset thing, where you'll because it like totally takes you away from the real world. So it just covers your eyes, and then you can like watch Netflix. You can watch like a theater-sized screen right in front of you. Versus AR is going to be much more practical, where you wear the glasses, you walk out, you do anything and everything in these glasses. Plus now another thing is in like 10 to 12 years, this is going to replace our like these screens, the laptops and the desktops. So in that case, like basically you might just use your hand gestures to just control or type everything, and then everything happening on your glasses.
That would be amazing. Yeah, it opens up. I have never ever tried any AR or VR or anything. So it's like, but I think I'm heading there.
I think you should start with VR, and that's because that has a consumer product right now.
Yeah, that's
and then
baby steps.
I bet you'll fall in love with like how it stands out.
Yeah, I can see how I walk around in the family. Yeah. All right. So where do people go to find out more about your research and your project?
So both, like I've been publishing articles on my website. So I think I'll just paste the link.
Yeah, we are too. Rael and I posted your.
In that case, I think on my website itself, there is a research section where I have published something, and then a few more new things are coming now. I've started a YouTube channel where I've started explaining, and then even started doing basically some demos, and then how the user experience works in VR. So as I get my hands into AR, much more advanced AR headset, then I'll move to AR as well.
That is awesome. So they will find the link to your YouTube channel coming soon to a theater night, to a screen near you. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just share it. Like there are few things available.
Yeah. Wow. That I'll be sure to watch those. That is so interesting. I think it's a lot to grasp, though. Yeah.
Initially, it is.
All right. Thank you so much, Niteesh.